Hi, my name is Tiana Karamayas and I'm a Cavoodle puppy coach and breeder for Noodle Way and River City Puppies. As a coach, my philosophy is simple. A Cavoodle should always complement your lifestyle, not complicate it. And this is the foundation to everything I teach. For almost the past decade, I have been working in the breeding, training, grooming, and veterinary sectors of the small animal industry. I've also been raising Cavoodles for the past 16 years, so I have definitely learned a thing or two about the breed along the way. Now, this podcast is all about Cavoodles. Raising Cavoodles, training Cavoodles, grooming Cavoodles, breeding Cavoodles, and how to shape the behaviour of a Cavoodle puppy. So, if you're a Cavoodle parent or you are looking at adding a Cavoodle to your family soon, then this podcast is for you. New episodes will be released each Tuesday morning, and you can follow me across all social media under the name @OodleWay for more tips and advice on Cavoodles. Thanks for tuning in. Hello and welcome back to episode 4 of the Cavoodle Coach podcast Rebooted. In today's episode, it's going to be a bit of a follow-on from last week's episode. Now, in last week's episode, I talked all about how when you get the wrong breed for your family, behavioral issues start to form. And I explained to you how that happened with my family when I was a young child. Now, in this episode, I want to continue on this topic and I want to talk about why dogs misbehave and why Cavoodles are so prone to separation anxiety and social anxiety. So to understand this topic, we need to go back to understanding why dogs are here, why dogs are bred. Now, every single dog breed out there was bred for an original breed purpose. And depending on what this original breed purpose is, a dog is going to have a list of temperament traits, a list of attributes that are more common to them. And if they don't get to express these behaviors that are in their nature, they're intrinsic to the dog, if they don't get to express these behaviors naturally in their environment, that's when behavioral issues form. And that's when they also do all of these attention-seeking behaviors because they are bored. And this is really important. So to explain this to you, it's really good to understand that there are 7 different types of groups that the Australian dog organisation, it's called Dogs Australia, they put all of the dogs, the different purebred dog breeds, into these 7 different categories based on their original breed purposes. So you have categories such as toys, terriers, gun dogs, hounds, working dogs, utility, and non-sporting. Those are the 7 groups that Dogs Australia recognises, and those are the 7 groups that they put all of their purebred dogs into. Now, this is really amazing because what we need to make sure we understand is that a Cavoodle, while it is a crossbreed, it's made up of 2 purebred dogs. So it's made up of the Cavalier King Charles Spaniel and it's made up of the Toy Poodle. And if we go and look at what the original breed purpose of the Cavalier King Charles Spaniel is and what the original breed purpose of the Toy Poodle is, it gives us a very good idea on what sort of behaviors come natural to the Cavoodles and what sort of environment, what sort of enrichment, what sort of training, what sort of play we have to provide to the Cavoodle to make sure all of their needs are met, to make sure no behavioral issues are forming, such as social anxiety, such as separation anxiety, and to make sure they're not doing any attention-seeking behaviors because they are bored. Now, if you were to think of a breed like a Kelpie or a Border Collie, these breeds, they are working dogs. They are herding dogs. Their original breed purpose was to work on a farm, to work under the farmer's command, to herd the cattle, and just perform all of these daily tasks, these big jobs. Now, what that means is a Kelpie and a Border Collie have high energy levels and also are extremely intelligent. It is amazing to watch a proper Border Collie or Kelpie work on a farm is incredible. And what happens is a lot of the time when these dog breeds get put into a suburban household with a very small backyard, even if the family was to take the dog on a walk or a run every day, it doesn't actually satisfy their intrinsic nature because these dogs are intelligent. They think. So when they're herding cattle out on a farm, they're thinking, they're watching all of the cattle as they move and understanding where they need to go so that the cattle stays in a group and actually are herded into the cattle yards, for example. So even if a family was to run a border collie or a kelpie every day, the dog is still full of energy. The dog is still going to be bored. The dog needs mental enrichment. And if you aren't letting that dog think and working their brain for hours and hours a day like they are originally bred to do, that's when border collies and kelpies dig in the backyard, they start barking, they have all this energy, they start chewing, and they cause all of these problems. And that's the border collie and the kelpie, who are a working breed, a herding breed. Now, when we look at the Cavoodle, the original breed purpose of the Cavoodle. Well, the original breed purpose of the Cavalier King Charles Spaniel, and I am reading this, I went and Googled this just to make sure, I'm saying the exact right thing. The original breed purpose of the Cavalier King Charles Spaniel, which is in the toy group classification on Dogs Australia, their original breed purpose was to sit behind the kings on the thrones in the castles. They date back to, I believe it was the 16th century. So they are a very old breed. And yeah, their original breed purpose was just to sit beside the king. So they definitely are not a working breed. They are very calm, very placid, very gentle, and they have that amazing temperament that we see in so many Cavoodles today. So the Cavalier King Charles Spaniel, the issues with this, well, not the issues, the things to take note of is this breed was bred to sit beside their owner, their family all day, every day. For them, their existence, the purpose of their existence is to be with you. And this is where that separation anxiety comes from, because they were not bred to work away from you. They were not bred like the Kelpie or the Border Collie, who was bred to go and work with cattle. They were bred to sit beside you. And so what tends to happen is when they are not with you, they absolutely start stressing. They start getting all of this anxiety. They start freaking out because when you're not there, what do they do? How do they live? They have no idea how to function without you. And that's what happens with the Cavoodles. They get this anxiety, they get this stress, because for them, the Cavalier King Charles Spaniel was bred to be with you. And when you're not there, they stress. And, we're not kings, we're not queens. We don't just sit on a throne all day in a castle. We go to work, we're not at home all day. And that's something that doesn't actually adhere to the original breed purpose of the Cavalier King Charles Spaniel. However, the good news is there is things we can do to help our Cavoodles to not feel that anxiety, and I'm going to speak about that shortly. Now let's jump over to the original breed purpose of the toy poodle. Now the toy poodle, maybe some of you don't know, but they are also a working breed. They're actually a hunting breed. And their original breed purpose, again, they date back to around that 16th century. Their original breed purpose was to actually go hunting with their family, with the hunters. So the hunters would shoot down ducks and birds, and then the poodle would go and retrieve them. So they're water retrievers. And so they have that intrinsic desire to chase and retrieve. These dogs were also bred to chase little rabbits in their holes, to get the rabbits to come out of the hole so that the hunters could shoot the rabbits. And it also says there that they were bred to be in circuses because of their great agility, which, if you've seen a toy poodle, you'll know they're very light on their feet. So if we look at the toy poodle, they have a chase and retrieve intrinsic behaviour. That's what they're born with. They are very intelligent and they're also very agile. So now what we have is the Cavalier King Charles Spaniel, who was bred to just sit beside you all day. That was literally their breed purpose. There was no other purpose to them but to sit there and be cute. And then we have the toy poodle, who was bred to hunt, retrieve, chase, and agility. When we look at those different behaviours and we pop it together into a Cavoodle, now we start to get a bit of an idea of what sort of daily enrichment and daily training we need to provide to the Cavoodle to make sure all of their needs are met. Now, it's important to note that not every Cavoodle is going to have that chase and retrieve nature. Not every Cavoodle is going to have that trait. And this is something you're able to discover Firstly, if your breeder does temperament testing, which is really, really important. And I spoke about this back in episode 2. So I really recommend going to listen to that episode. But you can also do a little bit of this yourself as a family. And I am currently working on a project that is going to allow you to do this from home yourself, so that when you bring your Cavoodle home, you can temperament test them and see what traits they have, and then structure your training, your socialization, your desensitization to them to make sure that they are actually getting everything they need, which in turn is going to limit those behavioral issues from forming. Now, if this project is something you think you'd be interested in, if you want to be able to temperament test your puppy when you bring them home so you can understand how to structure your daily routine with them to limit the behavioral issues, then head over to Instagram onto my profile at Oodleway, send me a DM with the word behaviour, and I'll add you onto my close friends list, which is where I'm going to be updating families on this new project I'm working on, and you'll get early access and all of the details on there over the coming months. So that's Oodleway, DM me the word behaviour, I'll add you to my close friends list, and you'll get all the updates on this project that I'm working on that will allow you to temperament test your Cavoodle when you bring them home. But yes, now I've just lost my train of thought. We have the different traits of the Poodle and the Cavalier King Charles Spaniel, and it lets us have a better understanding of what to expect with the Cavoodle. Now, what I want to also explain right now is, how do they get this anxiety? Why do they start misbehaving? So for dogs, when a dog is feeling a lot of anxiety or a lot of stress, what they have is a big surge in adrenaline. They get all of this adrenaline, and to help calm themselves down, to help reduce that anxiety and reduce that stress, they start doing all of these behaviors that they're not even conscious of doing. They just start doing them because it reduces that adrenaline, it reduces that stress, it reduces that anxiety. And this is what typically forms into those behavioral issues. So let's say, for example, your dog has separation anxiety, and they know that when your alarm goes off in the morning, it means you're going to work. So the second that alarm goes off, their anxiety, it starts to rise. And then you start getting dressed, you have a shower, you put on your shoes, you make your lunch. All of these behaviors your dog is intelligent enough to know means you're about to leave the house. And throughout your morning routine, their anxiety increases, and then you leave the house. And when you leave the house, their anxiety has just skyrocketed. And so to calm themselves down, they start barking, they start crying, they start digging, they start chewing, they start doing toileting accidents in their house. All of these behaviors are unconscious to your dog, but they're doing them because of this surge in adrenaline, just so they can calm themselves down. So what that means is, as soon as they feel that anxiety, your dog is going to have those behavioral issues, not because they're naughty, not because they're misbehaving, but because it's how a dog just naturally, without any thinking about it, they just naturally do that to try and reduce their anxiety and reduce their stress. They have no control over it. So as a family, what you need to do is you need to stop that anxiety from skyrocketing. And that's what turns into counter conditioning training, which is very hard, takes months and months and months and months of training to even achieve anything, and it's never going to completely get rid of it, and it's just a struggle. So what you want to do as a family is you want to make sure when your puppy is young, you're teaching them how to be confident, comfortable, and capable on their own, so that when you leave the house, your Cavoodle doesn't get that anxiety, so that they're okay with being alone. So I hope that's given you a bit of an idea on why dogs misbehave, how their original breed purpose can help give you an idea of what lifestyle you have to provide to them day in and day out so that these behavioral issues don't form, and also helping you understand why Cavoodles get that separation anxiety. It does stem from the Cavalier King Charles Spaniel, who was bred to sit by your side all day. And because we don't sit on a throne all day, because we don't sit in a castle all day, because we don't have, all these different people around all day, when we leave the house, they tend to feel that anxiety. And when they feel that anxiety, those behavioral issues form, because the only way a dog can reduce those anxiety is by barking, digging, chewing, weeing through your house, and just trying to expel all of this adrenaline that they have. And it leads us into this very horrible place where your Cavoodle feels very, very, very restrictive. You feel like you can't leave the house. It feels really hard. They feel like a burden, and it's just not as enjoyable as it should be. And I see so many families falling into this trap, because when you Google the Cavoodle, Google will tell you that they're gentle and calm and so easy to have, but it doesn't actually explain to the family that there is a certain lifestyle you have to provide to your puppy. There is certain training you need to provide to them so that they do develop that confidence, develop that sense of comfortability when they're alone, so they're not going to have that anxiety. And a lot of families can be misled on this subject. And then again, we have all these Cavoodles with this anxiety, which is horrible because they just get so stressed. They can also have that social anxiety. So whenever they go out of the house, because they haven't been properly socialized and desensitized to large crowds, noises, cars, bikes, strollers, all of that sort of stuff, they get all this social anxiety, and then when they're out, they can start crying or barking, stressing, and then it's really hard to take your dog out of the house. And a family, even though they got this Cavoodle, which is supposed to be easy, ends up causing them as much trouble as something like a Border Collie or Kelpie who isn't getting the mental enrichment they need, because every single dog can be hard work if you don't do the right thing for them. And that is the key here. So when you are getting a Cavoodle, I really, really encourage you to make sure you understand what they are prone to, and then to work with someone who can teach you how to show your puppy to be comfortable and confident on their own, how to properly socialize them, how to properly desensitize them, how to properly teach them, separation anxiety prevention. That's what I call it. I teach that to all of my puppies. I teach that to all of my clients that I work with. It's teaching them how to be okay by themselves. And it can take some work. And that work has to be done when your puppy is young, when they're in something called the critical socialization period, because this is the only time in your dog's entire life where you can shape and mold their behaviors without them having any fears or anxieties or hesitations already. And it's a really special period of time, and you really need to take advantage of it. And it's the only way to make sure your dog doesn't have separation anxiety. Otherwise, the counter conditioning training, while you can do it, you'll never achieve the same results. And I'm going to talk about the critical socialization period next week to tie this whole subject in together. So if you are getting a Cavoodle soon and you are really wanting to make sure that this separation anxiety doesn't develop, you want to make sure that your dog is getting all of the mental enrichment and the physical enrichment it needs as a Cavoodle to make sure all their needs are met and no behavioral issues are forming. If you want to make sure you're doing more than just the basic puppy school, which doesn't actually teach you how to shape your Cavoodle's behavior, then I really encourage you to head over to my website. I have 2 courses for you. It's called Oodle Way Puppy Prep and Oodle Way Puppy Train. And this is where I step you through how to shape your dog's behavior and then how to train them. And it's all designed for the Cavoodle in particular. Or if you'd want to work one-on-one with me, feel free to send me an email at hello@oodleway.co, and I can let you know how we can work together one-on-one. But it's really important that Cavoodle families really understand why Cavoodles are prone to separation anxiety, why they're prone to social anxiety, and how we can do simple things in our daily life with our new puppy that is going to arm them with the confidence to not have that anxiety when you leave the house. So yeah, there you go. That is today's episode, talking all about why dogs misbehave, why Cavoodles are prone to separation anxiety and social anxiety, how this relates to the different breed purposes, and then how to understand to instill Cavoodles with confidence so they don't have separation anxiety. Again, next week, I'm going to talk more about the critical socialization period, which is that amazing period of time where you can fully shape your Cavoodle's behavior so that you get that dream dog, and so that they fit into your lifestyle without any of that anxiety, without any of those fears, and they become really, really easy, because it is possible. You just have to have the right plan and the right routine in place. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this episode. This has been your Cavoodle coach, Tiana Karamayas. I'll see you next week. Make sure you send me a DM or leave me a rating and a review if you enjoyed this episode. I always love to hear from you. See you later.